Hello, consumer behavior fans. It's Dr. Grayson. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of perception and not only what that means to how we behave as consumers, but how we as marketers can use the theory of perception to influence the behaviors of consumers. So what we're going to talk about today is connecting how learning and perception go together. I'm going to talk a little bit about some processes and give you some examples of how we use perception in promotions and in e-commerce and in nudge marketing to get you as a consumer to do what we want. So let's take a look at what we have going on today. So the definition of perception is really an awareness of an interpretation between reality and what we think something is. So in the case of if you were taking a product, for example, I have the promotion here of the mouse. And the mouse, I guess you could say I think of the mouse as being invented by Apple. I don't know if it is or not, but my perception as a consumer is that not only is the mouse designed to sort of like creepy crawl your way around a web page, but it also is perceived in my mind as something that Apple invented. So now let's see how we take perception and we translate it into learning. So again, perception is awareness and interpretation, our personal interpretation of reality. Whereas learning is how do I take that interpretation and change my behavior between a person and some sort of stimuli. So let me give you an example of how this has worked in my world. So when I moved from Minnesota to Utah to teach at Utah Tech University, I had a big fancy SUV. Had a pretty fun job as an executive in a Fortune 50 company. So I had a nice luxury vehicle. It was a fun time in my life. But I decided when I no longer had children to cart around and it was just going to be me and I'm going across country, I just need a way to get from my home to the university and back. So I decided to downsize from the SUV because I perceived I only needed a small vehicle. So I went looking around and I've always learned from others, word of mouth, etc., that Toyotas are the best vehicles. Never had one before, but I thought, okay, I'll start to look I don't need an SUV, I'm going to look at Toyotas. So I ended up buying one and it was a used vehicle and I got it home and for some reason there were some odd things going on inside the car. The lights wouldn't work. So I'd open up the door and the lights wouldn't go on. And then I'm looking at the dashboard and everything was in Celsius and not Fahrenheit. So I knew there was something awry with this car. So my perception at the time was I need to get it fixed. I asked some students to help me and they couldn't figure it out. I took it back to the dealer. They're like, well, we're not quite sure what's going on here. We can fix it for you, but it seems weird. So they fixed it, I took it back, and then still didn't work. So my perception now as the Toyota, which is a reliable car, in my mind, the perception is a lemon because it didn't behave the way I expected it to. So because my car was a lemon, my thought was that all Toyotas are lemons. And so how does Toyota then attempt to change people's minds? Like people like me who accidentally had a car that didn't work out well? They try to perceive through expertise and word of mouth and customer reviews that indeed the Toyotas are good, valuable cars. So we as marketers attempt to create a perception in the mind of the buyer. If the buyer has a different perception, they have to work a little harder to make that work. So another thing about how do we make people learn? How do we get our perceived value to the customer? One way of doing that through promotion is exposure. It could be exposure inside stores, promotions. We use some sort of stimuli to get you to perceive our value in the way we want you to see it. And the best way for us to do that is by using all 5 senses. So in looking at exposure, we also have attention and comprehension that's needed. So again, exposure is that stimulus that we use to get you to, using senses, to get you to look and feel and believe in something. The sensation is your response to our stimuli. And then we use sensory marketing in a way to trigger those 5 senses and to capture your attention and to get you to comprehend in a more cognitive way what we believe. So I have a little bit of an Instagram ad that I got here the past couple of days, which I thought did a really good job at showing sensory. So this is a sink. It's a special sink. I don't know that it's a smart sink, but there's a lot of features on it. And the thing that I like about this particular Instagram ad is that it visually shows you, it shows you tactically showing the touch of how people are using the sink. It uses sound to enhance the senses of hearing, and then also smell. You can almost smell the oranges or the lobster in this particular ad. So I'm going to try a link to this particular Instagram ad so you can see this. So watch this. They're using music, tactical with the fingers, sound of the water. You can almost smell those apples, right? So you see, I guess they were oranges. You can see here that they do a good job of not only capturing your attention, and they're using the senses to show and teach you that you can perceive that this isn't just a useful utilitarian product, but it will really have sort of that happiness feeling to it, almost an enjoyment. So the sensing is really important for us to trigger those 5 senses, because the perception process does 3 things. First of all, you have to have a stimuli to create the sense. And then once we have stimulated you and you have that attention, you start to organize things, and you organize them cognitively in a way that makes sense to you. And then you have some sort of reaction to that. So if you're looking at this picture here, you've got the sensing is, oh my gosh, look at me. She's visually seeing herself in the mirror, but she's also thinking about what will other people think of me in this dress. Does it fit? So she has a reaction to it. So again, you sense it with one of the 5 senses. We use a stimuli. Then you organize it cognitively in your head, and then you have some sort of reaction to that. So this is a university for which I teach and many of you attend. And we went through a rebranding exercise, changing the name of our university, which was a big, big deal in the community. And so one of the things that our Marcom department did was they took the new logo and they explained it to the community to help guide our perception of what the look and the feel of this logo is. So they took every element and did a really good job at trying to explain what these things meant to help change consumer perception that, you know what, maybe this is a good thing for our community. And so FedEx has done the same thing. They took a very sound logo that everybody knew and loved, and I love this logo. I do a lot of branding work, and one of the things that's amazing about FedEx is not only did they take the Federal Express and shorten it down into something short and sweet, they have the arrow, which really perceives or reflects movement or transportation. And what I love about this is the stimuli that they use for each one of their different types of services is very consistent. And they use a different color for each of their services. They still have the movement in the FedEx, in the X, but they're helping us organize in our head that FedEx has various types of services that they provide, and then we can react to them. But this is an organization to help us understand the perception of what we're trying to accomplish. So in sensations, one of the things in terms of reaction is that, remember, we have the sensing, and then you organize, then you react. We try to get you to react in a way that is positive or resonates with you. So I took this off of Instagram the other day, and what I really loved about these posts was this was an Instagram story. I also think it came on my Facebook, and it was this little gadget for people who live in the city or go out camping that can't build campfires but want that sense of having the s'mores, the intimacy of a fire, the outdoors, and they did some good user content to get you to understand their concept. And you can see that she's so happy here that she can make her s'mores in the back of her van. So organizing has 3 principles. Remember, we take the stimuli and we cognitively we assimilate it, or we're trying to assimilate it into a specific category that we understand. Accommodating is there's some similarities, but not a whole lot. And then contrasting is it doesn't share anything in common. So you could do, we are different then. So we're alike, we're somewhat alike, or we're very different. So those are 3 ways that we can help consumers organize in their heads. Now, when we talk about perception, we have a cognitive bias as people where we have selective perception. And selective perception really is those things that we align to based on experience, or based on values, or based on the type of information that keeps coming to us through the channels that we particularly, that we gravitate towards. So here's just a little bit of a snap at this, is that literally the first link that you see is the one you agree with. That would be an example of somebody who has selective perception. Now, there's also a concept that's just noticeable difference. So we as consumers go through our day-to-day life, and you go to the grocery store and you buy eggs, and you think that eggs are going to be $1.50 or $2, or if you really want the fancy pants organic brown ones, they're $3. Well, in the past several months, those same eggs are $6 or $7. So we as consumers see a noticeable difference. So we have a perception that something has changed here, or maybe there is value or no longer value based on that noticeable difference. Now, in capturing attention, we as marketers or promotions and communications people, we can use a number of different factors to change that perception to get attention. We use things such as surprise. It could be movement. I showed you the sound before. Personalization. Hey, Kristy, this is just for you. Involvement. There's a lot of different ways that you will start observing as trying to capture attention. We could also use behaviorism in advertising. So if you can see here, we've got One commercial, you've seen the commercials. They're the commercials where you have the sad music and the puppies that need help and the puppy mills and the cats that only have one eye. They're very sad and they're trying to get you to empathize and in order to give to them. And there's also behaviorism in product marketing. So in terms of the types of quality, how we make our pizzas, how people are consuming them, etc. The best ingredients is the super experiences. So we can also use those behaviors in advertising. So there's one way is called cognitive learning. So I'm going to actually play this video for you. I remember this is probably one of the first advertisements that I saw when I was getting my MBA in marketing. And that was a gazillion years ago, but there was a big deal back then between Mac products or Macintosh laptops and PCs versus PC, or what we all used at work. The HPs, the Dells, the Gateways. You probably don't know any of that because it's been a while for me since this happened. So I'm going to see if I can play this for you.
I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC.
Gesundheit, you okay?
No, I'm not okay. I have that virus that's going around.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, you better stay back. This one's a doozy.
That's okay, I'll be fine.
No, do not be a hero. Last year, there were 114,000 known viruses for PCs.
PCs, not Macs. So just grab this.
I think I got a crash.
Hey, if you feel like that'll help, good.
All right, so I want you to think about what are some of the stimuli, the sensing stimuli that they use. They want you to cognitively learn that Macs have virus protection and are more safe than PCs, as they called them back then. So he sneezed, he literally dropped down, but they're having this conversation about this topic that people are interested in. So they use these visuals, this cognitive learning to help change the perception of the buyer that the Macintoshes are actually safer from viruses and fraud than the PCs. So in terms of organization or categorizations, I wanted to give you another example. So when you think about a product, there's lots of products that you can think about that you already have a preconceived notion in your head of what they mean. And you create a mental interpretation of that product in your memory. So let's take wine, for example. Let's say you're a wine connoisseur, or maybe your parents are, or you just love to go to Napa or Italy, and you have an appreciation for wine. So I could show you a bottle of wine that is only the glass of wine in the green bottle. And you might think to yourself, what type of wine is this? I can't really tell. Is it French? Is it German? Is it California? Maybe you're kind of snobby and you're only going to drink French wine. Or you could be snobby and only drink German and California wine, whichever way your snobbery goes. So let's say you're going to have French wine. So what do I do as a marketer to help convince you or to help you perceive that this is a French bottle of wine? I am going to use analytic categorization or organization. I can say something on the label. I could talk about the taste or the color, the aroma, the alcohol content in my promotional materials, in the way I communicate to you, in the using some sort of sensory like I showed you with the sink. And the non-analytic could be categorization, is you could think, oh, well, this is pretentious or it's expensive. So we categorize our perceptions into various buckets, and we as marketers can help you understand whether or not, yes, this is a very high snobbery wine, or it's, a reasonable wine just based on some of the communications that we create. So where does this all land? So we have the learning of this. We have explicit memory and implicit memory. Now, explicit memory is the type of memory that you have to work at. You consciously work to remember it. You know, all the things when you're going to be studying for your tests, you might use mnemonics or different ways or notes to remember these concepts. So we encode to memory that things we want to retrieve at a different time. And it's also very deliberate. And once it's in there, sometimes it's unconscious how it ever got there in the first place. And you probably have some memories that are explicit to you that you're like, where the heck did I learn that? You know, I still remember an account number for a bank when I was a teller when I was 18 for the city of Roseville. I won't tell you what it is, but how the heck did that get there? I have no idea. Implicit memory is information that you unconsciously remember and it's effortless. Think of da 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 da. I'm loving it. In 15 minutes or less, you can have 15% or more in savings. So implicit memories are those things that are just remembered effortlessly, unconsciously. And believe it or not, some of those shorter implicit memories that you have are because of the tools that we use to psychologically and cognitively implant that information into your mind. So that's consumer behavior. Now there's one more topic I want to talk about. This is one of my favorite topics ever. It is called nudge marketing. It comes from behavioral economics, and Thayer and Susstein actually won a Nobel Prize for this book. I usually teach the entire nudge book in my in-person consumer behavior classes, but nudge has really influenced a number of different disciplines, particularly e-commerce. And basically what nudge marketing is we help you create mental shortcuts to make you make a choice. Now, in the original behavioral economics book, it was all about making the right choice to do things like the recycle bin, or should I take the stairs as opposed to the elevator? Things like that to help you live a healthy, wealthy, wise life. Now, we marketers, we stole that and we decided to use some nudge marketing in terms of how we present information. So here we've got something called anchoring. Now, what anchoring is it's a way for us to show you, you'll see here an original price, and then what the discounted price is. So we're showing you that we're making you believe from a perception that you're getting a deal. You're getting such a deal that you're remembering that the higher price, what that is and what I'm giving it to you. We also use some nudge marketing. Another one that I have is the fear of missing out, is a heuristic that we use that if you take promotions management or digital marketing from me, we'll spend a ton of time on these. And basically what this heuristic is, or this mental shortcut is, we're going to show you there's only so many left, or a limited time now, or deal only good on Black Friday, or here's the anchoring right here. You get this deal, but if you don't do it now, you're going to miss out. So these are ways that we use to help you not only perceive something, but to help you make a choice. So that's a lot of information, but perception is really one of the key attributes, concepts, factors that you're going to need to be an effective communicator, effective marketer, whether it's pricing or promotion or putting something in your distribution channels. Perception is something that we have to deal with because every person is a person of their own mind, experiences, etc. So think about how you've experienced the differences between perception and reality, and how will you use this information as a marketer. So that's a wrap for us, and I want you to reach out to me with any questions or comments. You can reach out to me via email and Canvas, or certainly send me an email, follow me on Instagram, check me out on LinkedIn. I am happy to help you better understand how to take perception and make it a learned concept for a consumer and how it's going to help you in your marketing career. Take care, everyone.